All right, so today we're going to do a sample of a time series graph for a single case design in Microsoft Excel, the most up-to-date version at least. Some of what I do will be based off of the task analysis paper by Deoshand et al., which is posted on the course website. In some spots, I'll take a couple of shortcuts that I think make things a little easier, though less perfect. So I'll try and point out where I'm doing things the same and where I start doing things differently. So to start out, what we want to do is select our data, right? We have the day, the stress rating, and the sleep quality rating. So this is for someone trying to use meditation, their intervention, to increase sleep quality, and they think the mechanism is that, or why it's going to work, is that meditating will decrease their stress right before bed. So first we select all of this data, A to C, and then we go insert, we want a chart, and we're going to pick a scatter plot, not a line graph. This is different than a demo you might have seen that I did in class. There are some minor issues where you do want to go ahead and use the scatter. If you did it with a line already, that's fine. There are only minor issues that it causes, but we want to use scatter. So we pick it, and we want to pick this one right here. So this one will give us the lines already put in. This one right here will do something similar, but you do want to pick this one, so it has the markers and the lines. First thing we'll do is get rid of this weird grid that's not in line with graphing convention. We're going to delete it. And then we want to get rid of these grid lines too. Okay, so we see we have our bedtime stress rating and our sleep quality rating over time. First thing I'm going to do is title my chart. I'm going to call it bedtime stress and sleep quality over time. Nice script title. I'm going to fix that L. Notice the default is gray. I'll leave the font at Calibri, but I'm going to change this to black in line with graphing convention. First thing we'll do then is we want to start to format our y-axis. So we notice that it doesn't show the full range. Our variable goes all the way up to 100, so we want to have it capture the full range. Actually, before we do that, let's notice one thing. So these are both plotted against the same y-axis. It goes from 0 to 90. That's appropriate, almost appropriate for a variable that goes all the way to 100. What it does though is it smushes the sleep quality rating. You can't see the change very much. So what we're going to do is plot this against a different y-axis. So to do that, we right click on it, format data series. First thing that comes up, it'll say series options. We want to select secondary axis, and boom, we see this other y-axis pop up, and we see the data points move to where you can read them a lot easier. If your two variables are scaled on the same way, so if our stress rating was 0 to 10 and our sleep quality rating was 0 to 10, we wouldn't have to do this, but here we do. Okay, so we have our different axes. First thing I want to do is label these so I don't get confused. So to do that, we go to Design, Add Chart Element, Axis Titles. First we'll do primary horizontal. So our axis title down there. On our x-axis we have days. We'll do these for the rest too. So we want add chart element, axis titles, primary vertical. And this one, so this is our 0 to 90, which will change a little, but this is bedtime stress rating. Again, I want to make this black. Not sure why it does that. When we also look here, we notice we don't have tick marks, and we want the range to go 0 to 100. You want to show the full range on your axis. So we don't have tick marks. The text is gray, and it's not going high enough. So what we're going to do is select this axis, right-click on it, hit Format Axis. First thing we're going to do is make it go all the way to 100. You see we have our little bar graph over here. Bounds is the range of the axis. So the minimum is 0. That's good. We want it to go all the way down to 0. Instead of 90, we want to go all the way to 100. And you can see it'll do some auto resizing. The units to change to 20. I think this looks fine for this, but let's say we wanted to mark every 10. Whoops, right click instead. We could type in 10 and then it would go every 10, but I think 20 looks cleaner for this in this case. Okay, so we've got that. We want to add in our tick marks. So we open that. We want major type outside. We want them coming outside of the axis. And the other thing we notice is the axis here, it showed up now, but it's gray. So we want to make that black. Go over to the paint bucket, solid line. Boom, now we've made it black. All right. So we're going to do the same sort of thing, format this axis the same way. We want to also make this a solid black line. We also want tick marks, which we're back over here. We also might decide, all right, so we got major tick marks outside, that we want that we want to label every day, that we want a hash mark for every day. Again, I think this every 5 days looks great, so I'm going to keep it that way. But if we did want to change it, let's say we thought every day was important to have, we would just change the major unit to 1, and then suddenly it fills it in. But we are going to reset that to 5. In general, you want to have less crowding on your graph whenever possible. So pretty easy to count in between these points. Oh, we forgot to label our right y-axis. So again, we'll just add that axis title in. Remember, Excel doesn't call it left and right y-axis. It calls it primary and secondary. So it's our secondary vertical axis. This is where we have our sleep quality rating. We are going to make that black. Some people have strong feelings about this being rotated. I think it looks just fine that way. And then we take a look at that axis too, and we realize it's gray. So we want to format that in. And we'll go to the paint bucket, change the line color, solid line. Excel decided it should be black automatically. If we had to pick, we would just do that. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Next thing to work on then is going to be our data series. So we need to create the breaks and put in what are called phase change lines. So we need to show where we changed from baseline to intervention. The task analysis article tells you to embed these by changing what you type in. There are strengths to that method. It makes it easier to copy paste the whole chart. You get less stuff floating around. So by all means, if you want to do that, go ahead and that'll be useful to you. I'm going to show you a different way that I use in my own work. So what that is that we'll just create these phase change lines manually. So first we want to get the right data point. This is, I guess, a disadvantage to doing this way is you have to be careful that you put it in the right spot. So we're looking for data point 7 on session 7, where bedtime stress is 80 and sleep quality is 5. So all right, 5, 6, 7. We'll hover to double check. So this tells us that yes, indeed, this is point 7 and comma 5. So the value is 5. We'll check up here, 0.7 and the value is 80. So we got the right point. What we'll want to do then is select just this data point, right click, hit format data point. We're going to tell Excel to drop the line before it. So go over to the paint bucket, and now when it says line, we want to hit no line. We're actually just going to check. This order is a little different, so I'm just ignore this. Just going to check to make sure that we can go ahead and do this in this order. Nope, we can't. Okay, so we will just undo and back up. So before we insert the breaks, now we know,